kind of in love with a woman. And the reason I say kind of is because they were in an exclusive relationship. They were together almost every waking minute. They'd been together for quite some time. But every time the woman brought up marriage, the man would shoot it down immediately. He didn't want any part of it. And she couldn't understand why. But every time she would mention marriage, he would say, well, what's wrong with the relationship as we have it now? Why do you keep pushing to take it to another level? Isn't this good enough? And she couldn't understand that reasoning because they had been together for quite some time. As I said, they were not dating other people. They were obviously going to be together. So what's the fuss, right? Why not take it to the next level? The gentleman assured her that he was committed to her. He wanted to be with her. He just didn't want the obligation of marriage. He said, I don't want the being tied down that comes with marriage. I want to keep my options open just in case. And she couldn't understand that, obviously. But at the same time, he wanted all of the benefits that come with a relationship, and he certainly expected her to meet all of her needs. There was a Christian who was kind of in love with the church. And I say kind of because he came every Sunday. He loved the singing. He enjoyed the sermon. He was here. He was present. And one Sunday, an elder came to him and he said, so, do you have any questions? Anything we can help you with? And he said, no, I'm good. Have you thought about placing membership? And the man immediately became defensive. Why are you pushing membership? Why do I need to place membership? Why can't I just come? Why can't I just be here? And the elder didn't understand why he was being so defensive. The man assured him, I'm going to be here. I like it here. I want to stay. But I don't want the obligation that comes with investing. I want to keep my options open just in case. Of course, he still expected the church to meet all of his needs and all of his wants. I think we need to rethink what church membership is. Because I think somewhere along the way, we have lost what it truly means. When you survey the religious landscape today, you find a whole lot of believers, but very few belongers. You find a whole lot of people who are maybe converts, or people who seem to be in a relationship with the church. We call them consumers. But you find very few communers. There are far too many folks who are entering into church because of what's in it for them and less about what they can offer. They want to keep their options open. They don't want the obligation of commitment. They just want to come, they just want to be here, they just want to sit, and that's about it. But what they don't understand is that responsibility is a two-way street. That wanting the church to meet your needs is not what it's all about. That there's more to it than that. You cannot expect the church to meet your needs while you refuse to commit. That's a one-sided commitment. How many of you saw the title of the lesson this morning and your adrenaline spiked? How many of you follow my blog or on Facebook and you saw that we were going to talk about membership this morning and you were just so excited you couldn't wait to get out of bed and get to church? I mean, this is not the most appealing subject, right? This really doesn't set your world on fire. So I have the unenviable task this morning to try to make church membership something that's interesting. And I hope that I can do that, because when we talk about church matters and matters within the church, we need to talk about things like membership so that we fully understand what it means. Because somewhere along the way in our social construct, we have lost what the true meaning of membership is. And a lot of other things as well that we'll talk about in this series. I want to start by saying this. In some ways, we have gotten off track by asking people to place membership. Some would say, but Chris, isn't that just some sort of social thing that we've come up with so that you can get your name on the roll, so that you can identify with the church, and so that the elders know who you are and you can have your picture in the directory? And in a lot of ways, yeah. I mean, that's really what it's become. Do I agree with that? No, not exactly. Do I think there's benefit in that? Yes, absolutely. But that's not what church membership is truly about. And when you place membership, that's not what it's truly about. That's where we need to get some clarity. What does it mean to place membership? Because some would say, God added me to His church. What difference does it make whether I identify with your congregation or not? I am still a part of the kingdom. And I would agree totally. I would say you're exactly right. But the same people who make that objection many times don't even understand what placing membership means, what it means to be a member of a local congregation. So I'm saying we need to rethink church membership. I put it like this. When I was a teenager, I took up the game of golf. I took up golf because if I didn't, I would have to go to football off season. I didn't want to do that. So I decided to play golf. Our golf coach was a scratch golfer. He was almost on the tour. He was really, really good. And I thought, I'm going to get free golf lessons, and I get out of off season. So I decided to join the golf team. And for a while, I was terrible, but I loved playing, and I loved going out there. And I was playing almost every day in the summer. My parents got smart, and they said, you know, it really doesn't make any sense for us to give him money to pay all these green fees when we could just buy him a membership at the local country club. They enjoyed me playing golf because it got me out of the house, it got me out of their hair, and it kept me from playing video games. So it was a win-win situation for them. So they purchased me this golf club membership at Paragould Country Club. And immediately, doors were opened. I noticed some things. I noticed that now, all of a sudden, I was a bigwig. I could walk in, sign my name, grab a cart, and go play golf anytime I wanted. I could use the dining room. I could use the swimming pool, the hot tub, all the other amenities that came with being a member of the country club there. And you know, many people look at church the same way. I pay my dues, I give my offering, and I get whatever I want. I get all the amenities, all the privileges, all the perks. You've heard some of these things. This is my church. You got to sing the songs that I like. If you don't implement this program that I came up with, I will withhold my contribution. Hey, preacher, remember who pays your salary. I've been a member of this church since it started, so you'd better do what I say. I know what I'm talking about. I contribute lots of dollars, so you better let me have my way. These are things that go on in a church because people don't understand membership. They see it as, I give my money, I get perks and privileges in return. These Christians have a view of membership that is more like a country club rather than what the Lord's church was intended to be. They expect to be served rather than to serve. They focus on their rights instead of their responsibilities. They only see entitlements and not sacrifices. They offer their money and they expect something in return. Their offering entitles them to an unending supply of privileges and amenities. And then there are those who are a little more passive in their approach. They don't come in necessarily demanding things, but they may join or place membership at a local church, and they come in wanting to do things exactly the way it was done wherever they came from. And so they push, and they push, not understanding that, look, you got to be patient. The landscape is different here. Some come in with demands. I know how to make this place better, although I've only been here for about a week. You've got to understand that the landscape is different here. Still the Lord's church, but some things are different, right? Patience is a virtue. And you got to appreciate the passion and the work ethic, but you also got to get in to fit in. You've also got to understand that this is a place where you are coming in, you are integrating, and we want to use your talents and abilities the best we can. But as you've heard me say over and over again, it's not about you. This isn't about you or any of us. Listen to what Paul wrote in Galatians chapter 1 and verse 10. For am I now seeking the favor of men or of God? Or am I striving to please men? If I were trying to please men, I would not be a bondservant of Christ. You know what the main theme here is from Paul, both in this verse and in context? It's this. It's not about you. This isn't about your entitlements or your perks or your privileges. This isn't about what the church can do for you. Do you come to church with your basket empty and expect it to be filled, or do you walk in with it full, expecting to walk out with it empty? There's the difference there, right? And Paul is saying this is about something bigger. I'm not trying to please you. That's an effort in futility, is what Paul says. Because appeasing man usually leads to displeasing God. It's just how it is. But here's the thing. And here's something that we cannot avoid. Membership does have its privileges. To be a member of the Lord's church means that we are free from God's wrath. We are free from the bondage of sin. We are free from the law. And as children of God, we are free from death. Those are the best privileges we could ever hope or ask for, right? We need to be satisfied with those. I mean, if we have nothing else in the way of a congregation, we have this as being a part of the Lord's church, being in a saved relationship. That's enough, right? So membership definitely has its privileges. But let's not confuse these privileges with entitlement. The church is literally the called out. In the Greek, it's ekklesia, the called out. That's who we are. And Paul said this in Romans 12, starting in verse 4. He said, "For just as we have many members in one body, and all members do not have the same function, so we who are many are one body in Christ and individually members of one another." God added us to the church so that we may learn, so that we may teach, so that we may give, so that we may serve, so that we may even die for the gospel if necessary. Membership is not about perks. It's about function. And that's where we so often get off track. We don't realize that when we place our membership with a local congregation, we are dedicating ourselves and committing ourselves to serve. It's all about what we are willing to do to make the Lord's church function properly. You remember in 1 Corinthians chapter 12, we talked about this verse on several occasions. Starting at about verse 12, going to the end of that chapter, Paul talks about how we all are members of one body and how we all have different functions, but we all come together to make certain that the church functions properly. You remember that when he talks about some of you are an eye, some of you are an ear, some of you are a foot, and you all come together to form a perfect body so that no part is deformed, so that no part is not working properly. You all function as one so that the church functions as it should. The whole theme of that and what Paul is saying there is that membership has its function. Are you a member of the Lord's church? If so, then the question after that is, so what's your function? Are you a member of the Lord's church? Yes. Okay, so what are you doing? To be a member means that you function. Everyone has a function. Membership is not just about having your name on the roster or your picture in the church directory. It's about functioning in a role. It means that we are all necessary parts of the whole. And Paul makes it very clear that we are connected to one another and dependent upon one another. Paul makes it clear that members are different, but they still work in harmony. We all have different functions, different roles, and different things that we bring to the table, but we all come together to work and to function as one body. If you're a member and you're not functioning, then your part of the body is deformed, and the body is not functioning as it should. There are 4 major bones in the church. You realize that? 4 major bones in the church. First of all, there is the wishbone. The wishbones are the people who wish something would be done, but they're not about to get in and help do it. Then you have the knuckle bones. Those are the ones that just want to beat everybody down. Then you have the jaw bones. You know who they are. They want to talk about everything, but they don't want to do anything. But then you have the backbones. And the backbones are the people who are the core of the congregation. They are the ones who get it done. They are the ones who set themselves aside, who understand role and function and purpose, and they do everything they can to make sure that the church is going the way that God would have it to go. They are the lifeblood of the congregation. They are the backbone of the congregation. Think about this question. Why do you think God added you to the church? I mean, when you were baptized, you were added to the Lord's church as well. Why do you think He did that? What does that mean? and go throughout the New Testament and try to find, either in the book of Acts or in all of Paul's letters, where he says it is acceptable for a church member to do nothing. Find that for me, and we'll re-preach this sermon in a different way. But you won't find it. Because throughout the New Testament, membership applied to the church means function. There is a role, there is a responsibility. I mean, if the church were established from the very beginning in the mind of God, and if He sent His only begotten Son to die for it, to purchase it, member by member with His own blood, then what do you think that means for you or I? What do you think that means? Certainly it means more than just coming and sitting, right? There's more to it than just having your name in the church directory. I mean, you think about this. If somebody were to ask you, so where do you go to church? And you say, Oldham Lane. They would be well within their right to say, okay, well, what do you do there? That would be a very valid question. What do you do at Oldham Lane? You're a member here. What do you do? And I realize that we have some folks that have placed membership with us very recently, and they're not sure what they're doing yet. And that's okay, because you're coming in, you're surveying the landscape. As Jake always says, it's probably good just to come in and kind of see and find your area, talk with the elders, talk with the ministers. We're not talking about folks that are coming in that are new Christians even, trying to find out where they fit. That's not what we're talking about, as much as we're talking about changing our thinking of what it means to be a member. Because we talked about this a few months ago. So many times people go shopping for a new church and they don't ask the right questions. They don't ask the question, what can I do for this congregation? How can I help it? How can I make it better? Instead, it's, what are they going to do for me? How are they going to meet my wants and desires? It's a very different approach. Let's look at it this way. Notice what Peter writes in 1 Peter chapter 2, beginning in verse 4. And coming to Him as to a living stone, which has been rejected by men, but is choice and precious in the sight of God, you also, as living stones, are being built up as a spiritual house for a holy priesthood, to offer up spiritual sacrifices acceptable to God through Jesus Christ. So Peter states that as Christians, we are living stones in a spiritual house, which means that we all come together as bricks, if you will, to build up this spiritual house. And if you remove just one brick, it's going to make the structure weaker, right? If you start removing more than one brick, all of a sudden you're really compromising the structural integrity of that building. If you remove enough bricks, the building's going to fall to the ground. We are living stones. It's up to us to make sure that this spiritual house is built properly and that we're all holding it together. But then Paul goes on to use another metaphor. He says that we are soldiers in an army. Our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the powers, against the world forces of this darkness, against the spiritual forces of wickedness in the heavenly places. In any army, there are those who desert the ranks. There are those who go AWOL. There are those who don't want to be a part of the army any longer. But when God adds you to His church, you become enlisted in an army. The two go hand in hand. When you rise from those waters of baptism and you are added to the Lord's church, you are now a soldier and you have to fight. You have no choice. You've got to fight. You've got to join the front lines and you've got to be ready to go to war. Paul approaches those who have fallen out of service in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, starting in verse 14. He says, we urge you, brethren, admonish the unruly, encourage the faint-hearted, help the weak, be patient with everyone. The word unruly there is actually a military term in the original language, and it means disorderly, or one who leaves the ranks, one who goes AWOL. Then I want you to consider what Paul says in 2 Timothy chapter 2, starting in verse 3. He says, suffer hardship with me as a good soldier of Christ Jesus. No soldier in active service entangles himself in the affairs of everyday life, so that he may please the one who enlisted him as a soldier. You see what he's getting at here? Placing membership means that you're identifying as a soldier in this congregation, that you're going to fight, that you're enlisting in the army. Of course, you did that when you became a Christian, but you're helping this core right here. You must be dedicated. to your fellow soldiers and to the mission, which is why church membership is so important. When you are added to the Lord's church, God enlists you in His army, and you have to fight. You don't have a choice in the matter. You must be ready and willing to die for this cause, because you're not just a member, you're a soldier. And I guess you do have a choice. You could choose not to function. You could choose not to fight. You could choose not to serve. But then are you a member? I mean, if membership is defined as function, then are you really a member then? You see, I wonder if there's really any such thing as an unfaithful member or a non-working member, because the word itself inheres that we are fighting, that we are serving, that we are functioning. It's kind of like the word deacon. We get that confused so many times when it comes to public office within the church. You talk about that office of deacon. That's not a title. It's a role, it's a responsibility. So if you're a deacon not doing the job that's been assigned to you, you're not a deacon anymore. Because the two go hand in hand. Deacon means servant. If you're not serving, you're not a deacon. Doesn't matter if you wear the title or not. And it's the same way with membership. Are you truly a member if you're not functioning? Is there really such a thing as a non-functioning member? I want you to notice this analogy as well. Paul compares the church to a bride. He says in Ephesians 5, "Husbands, love your wives just as Christ also loved the church and gave Himself up for her, so that He might sanctify her, having cleansed her by the washing of water with the word, that He might present to Himself the church in all her glory, having no spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but that she would be holy and blameless." Each and every church member has the responsibility to make certain that we are helping the bride of Christ be as beautiful as she possibly can. Christ expects His bride to be holy, spotless, without blemish, to be pure, and that is our responsibility. The only way for this to happen is for each and every church member to realize his or her responsibility in this regard. So there you have it. You are a body part. You are a living stone. You are a soldier. And you are a bride. That's what it means to be a church member. And to be a church member means that you work. It means that you support. It means that you fight. It means that you promote faithfulness and purity. That's what it means. It's not about simply telling the elders, "Hey, I'm here." It's more than that. And, sometimes we don't know what our role and our function is, as I said a moment ago. As long as you're willing to get in there and fight and figure out what that is, we're willing to help you to do that as well. And, we have folks that come our way all the time, who come here to visit, who want to see what we're about, and I hope you're not scared away with this lesson. And certainly, we're not going to boot anyone out the door who may want to feel things out, or may just decided, I want to come and I want to listen, and that's about it. I just want to encourage us to rethink membership, because I think something's been lost along the way. My mother-in-law is a foster parent. This is the baby she has right now. Is that not the cutest thing you've ever seen? This is Justice right before she got tubes in her ears. And every time we go and visit my mother-in-law, we threaten to take Justice with us. Justice is very sweet. She's about 8 months old now. But during Christmas time, she was about 4 or 5 months, and so we had a present for her. Everybody was opening presents, and so we gave her a present. And she took the present, and, she was a little bit confused, maybe intrigued. And so we helped her to open it. And after she opened it, we were all more excited than she was. You ever do that with little kids? You go, "Oh, look at what you got," and they could not care any less, right? Instead of playing with the gift, she got the box and started chewing on it. Might as well have just gotten her a bunch of boxes. That would have been just as good. You probably remember that when you had kids. They would play with the box. Even if it came in a big box, they'd rather play in the box than they would play with the gift that it came in. I think sometimes, perhaps not here, but in the church at large, we're simply playing with the box. We're playing with the box that is the church, and we're not realizing the precious gift and treasure that we have. Without a doubt, the greatest gift that God has ever bestowed upon us was the sending of His only begotten Son, who suffered, died, and was buried, and on the third day He rose again, triumphant over sin and death. And when we come in contact with the blood of Christ, we have that same privilege, that same gift, that same treasure. But along with that treasure, connected with that gift, is church membership. And I think sometimes we don't recognize what a wonderful treasure it is. We simply play with the box. I want to encourage you this morning. If you're considering placing membership with us, please understand what that means. We're not trying to force anything on you. We're not trying to be rude or we're not calling anyone lazy. We're just saying this is what God's Word says and this is what we want to promote. Maybe you've been a member here and you want to do more. We want to help you with that as well. Or maybe you've not put on Christ in baptism. Maybe you're ready to do that and thus begin a daily walk with God and become a member of the Lord's church. Maybe you just need some prayers. Maybe you're hurting. Maybe you need a family to rally around you and help you. Whatever your need is, come now as we stand and as we sing.